Good evening. I'm Father Russ Carmichael, and this is Street Talk. I want to thank you all for letting me come into your home. I'm back here with my notorious partner that's sitting across the table with me, Dominic Cotton. And I got a great guest with me again. I've had him on before. Representative from down south from me, Chris Rosario. Okay.
Thank you, Father Russ.
Good to have you. Good to have you on. We were just discussing. I wasn't sure quite what we want to do in opening this show, but like everybody else, our issue is justice. We were just talking about that before the show started, on all the issues we have with what's going on across the country in our own state. We just happen to be talking about the police force, and it's a real hard thing. It's a hard thing for me because I have many people in the family that are law enforcement on the police department or in administrative positions. My brother was top investigator for the state auditor for many years, retired, and now is sheriff in Middlesex County in Boston. I have cousins that were on the Boston force and stuff like that, and it's a hard thing. But we're a multiracial family too. On the other side of it, we're all colors. We're Italian, Hispanic, we're black. I mean, I come from a multiracial family, and it's like, wow, what do you do? And I know you were doing justice forums, and you're running in an area that's got a lot of difficulty down there.
Yes,
right?
yes. Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Father Russ and Dominic, for having me on again. I had a great experience last time I was here, and always welcome to come back. And but basically, what's happening across our country, it seems like as we watch the shows and the media, CNN and all these other major outlets, it seems like it's like an escalating effect. Each week there seems to be something going on, especially with our law enforcement community. Now, I've always been in code enforcement. Now I work for a law enforcement department on the civilian side. So now I get an even closer look of what our officers go through every day when they go through a shift change. And everybody expects to go out and have a good shift and come home. But what's happening here, especially some of our southern areas, and it's happened in some places up north here, we've had some incidents, especially with our African American community and our police community. And I think it's important that we bridge that divide. And when we have these forums, because we can protest all we want, but if nobody's at the table, if there's no communication, nobody's talking to each other, then we're just not going to bridge that divide and see what real community policing is. And growing up in Bridgeport and being a person of color, I've had experience with police where I may have gotten pulled over or asked a certain question, growing up on the east side of Bridgeport, where everybody line up, everybody, spread apart and get patted and frisked.
Assume the position.
Assume the position. Right. Just because of the neighborhood that we were in and looking a certain way. So it's something that we definitely have to address.
It's a situation where obviously in my upper part of my life I've dealt with, but on my growth period, I come from Newton, Massachusetts. Italian mixed neighborhood that I come out of. We never had the difficulty that they have today. It was, number one, some relative of yours usually would be on the police force or the fire department and stuff like that. You did something wrong, you got a boot in the butt and sent home, or stuff like that. It was a total different environment than it is today. Of course, as I grew, I probably, and I was an ex-convict criminal in my younger years, right? I don't believe that I've been stopped 10 times in my life, speeding and stuff like that. Never in my life was I abused but I'm white. You know, on the other hand, I have associates and friends like see you later that were picked up every week, banged against the wall, even abused when they were picked up police. In all my criminal career, I was never physically abused or anything else like that. However, my counterparts that were black, Hispanic, and stuff like that, I guess you'd call them my gang members or my associates, they get picked up, they get slapped around, they get banged around, and we always, you know, we joked about it, but it isn't funny. It isn't funny, but we joked about it. Well, you know, hey Russ, you're white. Nobody does that to you. And I'd say to one of my associates, Brother Martin, yeah, well, you're black, so you're gonna get punched around.
So in other words, you've got the complexion for the protection.
I got the protection for the protection. Yeah, exactly.
The complexion for the protection. So.
And of course, when you go, there's an understanding when you come up like I did. Even though I had been in a more wealthy community, my guys I hung around with come out of the poorer community, and you hung around with that, you learned that, yeah, white was a protection, okay, and that they would get abused far more than I would in any given situation. You saw that and you learned it, but you didn't much. You know, in those days, you weren't thinking about it. You know, it wasn't something now that, you know, at my age, at 73, I really think about it. I have my associates that's, I mean, he's doing the longest prison sentence in the country for an intent to do something wrong. Ralph Ham, who does the books that we publish for him. Ralph is up in Massachusetts going on his 48th year for attempting something. He didn't kill anybody. While at the same token, we have a guy out in Boston that killed 18 people, that did 12 years, Johnny Martirano, walking around the North End.
Well, one of the things that, just to add to that, as you've been saying, these things have been happening for a very long time. But I think the game changer here is that nowadays we're living in the age of social media, where everybody has a smartphone. Everybody has, you know, Facebook or Twitter, and even now where you can broadcast live.
Right.
So these things have been happening for the past generation.
All my life.
Could you imagine if they had Facebook and Twitter and all this stuff in your day?
You're right.
We'd be having these escalations and these protests back then, although we've had them, but now they're magnified because everything's under a microscope. Every little situation, it's magnified. So we have to be careful, especially our officers and even our public. You know, we have to say if we're going to be resisting, we need to comply with the officer. Just to, you know, we
assume the position.
Assume the position.
You assume that position. If you're of any color, you have to automatically think. If they're stopping you for speeding, if they're stopping you for a taillight, you've got to make sure, you've got to teach your kids, assume the position. Don't move. Because if you move, they're going to blow your brains out. Because they're scared. They're scared.
It's a conversation. Just this past evening, they had a workshop, a little seminar with the Bridgeport Police Department where they showed you how to interact with an officer the right way. You know, because you want to get into a situation when you send your kid out or when you go out, you expect to go out and live freely, but let's say you had to bust a taillight like this gentleman in Minneapolis. This guy got shot for no reason. And lives are being lost. And also our men and women in blue. We had 5 officers that were there to protect us.
But this has been going on. You ever see somebody do a stop? The guy jumps out of the car, he starts to run away across the field. What do? They pull up, stop, boom. The guy's running. What are you shooting the guy for? He's running. He ain't talking, okay? Also, the history. People get mad. They see, you know, from the white side, and that I deal with white people say, well, you know, they do all this, they do wrong thing. I say, you crazy? Well, you know, are you crazy? You have no understanding of the history of blacks and Hispanics in this country. That's another major problem. The education. I watched a news media person get mad over the guy getting bombed with the robot going there. Said, We never bombed anybody in the United States before. I went, it's national TV. What? Did you ever hear about the Black Panthers? They dropped a bomb on the house. Where the heck have you been? Did you ever hear of the history of what happened in Kansas? They bombed we bombed the whole community of blacks years ago. The problem is you don't understand the history of the black community, and you're talking like an idiot. They've been dealing with this since the founding of the country. And you don't know about it because you're not taught about it in school. Unless you take black history and understand it, you have no idea. You have no idea what's happened to Hispanics in the southern part of our country. You know, they don't know how many times that they've come across the border and been killed, okay, coming to try to work years ago. I mean, hundreds.
Especially when you're dealing with the Hispanic community. I know everybody's up in arms. You know, there's a certain presidential candidate out there who's been, you know, threatening to build walls and kick everybody out. You know, not only do we have to deal with our complexion being different, but there is also a language barrier. You know, we need to. There's cultural differences within our community. Even doesn't matter if you're Puerto Rican or Mexican or Guatemalan. There are cultural differences. There may be a different dialect. And when dealing with law enforcement, we have to make sure that some of our officers they need to know Spanish, because you never know. You could say something that could be a mix up, and a bad situation can happen.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've got this going on throughout the country, and the country's a mixed bag. I mean, I grew up Italian, French, Irish neighborhood when I grew up. Then Hispanic. There were few blacks in the area where I was. Yet when you went to town in Roxbury, okay, we had a fairly big African American community, okay, and that's what it is. It's a mixed bag, and if you have no understanding of that community, if you're brought up in just a white community, you have no understanding. And if you're brought up middle class, you have really no understanding of the poverty community and the difficulty in the poverty community, and that is a shame. I mean, that's just
You know, when you grow up in a neighborhood, in a middle or upper class neighborhood, you know, your biggest problem of the day is the Wi-Fi's down. There's no cell phone reception. But when you're growing up in the neighborhoods that I grew up in and represent, there's some people that, you know, they don't know what they're going to eat for dinner. Some of our kids, their lunch, their school breakfast and lunch.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah. That's it. And then, you know what? They're going to try and take an extra little snack from the cafeteria, because that's going to be the only thing they're going to have for dinner.
Yeah, or the local store. They're going to try and grab
the local store
candy bar and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, it's survival.
So when your back's against the wall, you're going to do what you can to survive. And going back to when you're saying our country's a mixed bag, we need to make sure that our law enforcement departments also reflect our communities. Down in Bridgeport, I know they've done a positive job to try to build up the ranks of black and Hispanic officers, men and women, to become a part of the police department, to be a part of the fabric of the community, and to reflect the community. I know there were officers growing up in my neighborhood that they were Puerto Rican, they were from our neighborhood, and I knew we can interact with them, and I felt comfortable around them because I knew that they understand what I understand, what I grew up with, my culture. And there was something that came out in the Connecticut Mirror recently where the state population, 25% of the state population is a minority, yet I believe it was 6 to 7% of our state police are people of color, and that's something that next year with the Black and Puerto Rican Caucus that we need to.
You need to look at that.
We need to look at that. We need to
address that. That problem needs to be addressed. You know, I work. Dr. Eisenberg has been a long years of dealing with race relations and stuff like that, and they work here in Connecticut with police forces and stuff like that. My buddy Paul Lewis, who's out of Boston, they work with the black community and police relationships of bringing the police and the community together with things that really work. You know, local police. Working with the community really works if you got them together at the same table and speaking. You and I were just talking about that. For all my life, over 50 years in the justice thing, as an ex-convict, okay, you would go at the table to talk about prisons. I might be the only prisoner at the table in those days because I was a huge, and today I'm a fairly big leader in that stuff. So maybe I'd be at a conference. But if I wasn't there, there was nobody else. You all the way on prisons until maybe the past couple of years. Homelessness, same thing. I dealt with homelessness. You go to nobody at the table that has been homeless. You go to your drug, as you know,
Yes.
you go to your drug things, and you're the only one bringing druggies to the place, and the other people are running programs, and they don't have anybody. Huh?
Yeah, I was telling you an experience that I've seen a lot of opiate forums throughout the state,
lately,
and I recently did one in Bridgeport,
Right.
and I think I was the only person, along with I had a bunch of collaborators, that we had people that were in recovery that actually did the drugs.
did the
and
drugs,
have
so
been
we're
in
going through
recovery
it. Yeah,
for over 10,
right,
15
exactly.
years,
Yeah.
and know the experience of what to go through. And I think what's happening, we need to work with partners. The chief of police in Shelton, the only African-American chief in the Valley, Chief Sean Sequeira, he's been doing a great job getting the word out about being at the table. I think it's important that
Gotta be at the
when
table.
when you're dealing with, you got situations like the Black Lives Matter movement and,
Right.
and things of that nature, we need to make sure that if there's an issue, that law enforcement is at the table.
Oh, yeah.
We need to, the law enforcement needs to be, and you guys need to be at the table.
Yeah,
The community needs to be at the table.
It's hard. It's hard at that table to deal with, but you got to be able to deal with. That's what negotiation's about. It's like, I mean, that's why it's like union negotiations. You got to have the people at the table, and you got to take the crap, because there's a lot of crap that's built up and everything, and if it doesn't get talked about, it gets pushed away. I mean, I've watched people who don't understand. They don't want to hear the history of a Hispanic or black person because their history is different. They don't want to hear what affects them. I mean, you go out of your house. I've never gone out of my house afraid of cops, even when they were following me, and I knew it. Okay, I never was afraid of what they were going to do to me. I don't ever regard, and okay. However, I knew all of my associates that were black, even if they weren't doing nothing wrong, were worried about what the cops were going to do to them if they stopped them. You know?
We're in a situation in our country right now, Ross, where when I found out that the Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Alton Smith, when that happened, my first reaction is like all the other incidents: pain, sadness, and then with Philandro, in Minneapolis, pain, sadness, and then you get the officers that are getting killed, and it's like, enough is enough. Enough is enough on all sides, and
Right,
it's like
right.
it's the same pain. When it's like, how many more people are gonna die? It's insane.
I think what people have to realize is, you can be pro-police and pro-Black lives. It doesn't mean that you have to separate yourself into two distinct camps, because the only way that you're really going to address some of this stuff is if we don't look at this as being a divisive issue. You work as a civilian, part of the Shelton Police Department, so you know what it's like to be around the police. You've been on the other side of it. People who are white and walking around who don't fear this stuff, or think the police are on their sides, or think that black people don't care about the police, or Puerto Ricans don't care about the police. It's simply not true.
And when it comes to especially with I just want to address the Black Lives Matter movement.
Go ahead.
It's what's happening here is this. If you I want to use this analogy because I'm comfortable using this analogy. If you look at the entire human body, and if the Black Lives Matter, we're killing black men are being killed. So it's saying like your shoulder hurts, and if there's a problem with your shoulder, don't look at your right knee.
No.
We need to address that shoulder, because that's what's happening right now. There is a disproportionate amount of African American men that are being gunned down, and we need to address it. And I think that whoever is going to be the next president, and hopefully it's a Democratic president, that this is part of their platform, that this is something that needs to be addressed.
You come from a country that doesn't have this problem.
Nope.
Michael Leonard comes from a country. You both come from a country, and he's becoming a citizen. You're already, okay. They don't have that over here. They don't have this problem in England and stuff like that. Why? It's not that they.
I'll be honest enough to say that I left when I was 6 years old, so it's not.
You left.
It's not when not during something that I grew up in.
Right.
If you wanted an honest answer, out of the top of my head, I would probably say some of it has to do with the speech that has an effect on people's perceptions.
You know what Michael says? Michael J. Leonard, who's obviously my partner in the publishing thing, and comes from Wales and stuff. Guns. He said, we have racial problems that you handle with fists, maybe, and stuff like that, but we don't have it, nothing like here, but we don't have the guns. We don't have the easy kill and stuff like that. We don't have that kind of stuff over there. And that's really interesting. People say, oh, yeah, right away you're talking about guns. But the fact of the matter is, if you look at places and everything else like that, okay, every cop that goes to a car, he's worried about somebody coming out with a Glock and going to shoot his rear end or something like that, because the whole country's armed. Okay, so how do you, if you don't get rid of these serious guns, people say, well, you shouldn't use that as a, they say, yeah, you if you don't get rid of some of these things and cut that down, the guy's going to be scared. I don't care what color you are. You approach a car, you stop somebody. What's the first, when you're an armed officer, the thing you're thinking about, I don't know who this guy is. I don't know what this person is doing. And most likely, he's got a gun. So I got to be ready. And the problem is, if you're ready, you're too close to pulling that trigger. Okay, the guy went into the. I hate it. I saw that video, made me sick. But I was thinking, I know, because I was a gun person. Okay, if I saw a gun, I would have shot. I hate to say it, okay? You see a gun, I don't know what he's going to use it for, but of course this guy's a professional police officer. He's not supposed to be like that. Yeah, you know?
Well, see, there's another component to that, and I've seen pictures like that where you look at some of these people that have gone to, and I hate to say it like this, like Republican rallies or whatever, and they're actively openly carrying. And the cops, like, they're getting ready to pull something. They're like, the cops like, pull it down. Whereas you're dealing with the black or Puerto Rican community, yeah. the guy, they know somebody's got a gun. The gun's already out. Yeah. And they're ready to fire.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy stuff. It's all crazy.
Being a police officer is a very stressful situation, and I'm not saying that listen, if you have to use excessive force, you have to use excessive force if your life is on the line.
Sure.
But it's not. You're going through the course of a day. You could have had a really, 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 really tough shift, and it's that one thing that could snap. It could make you snap. Yeah. And all the officers are highly trained. They know what they're doing. But you just never know. Everybody's human. Everybody's human.
Well, that's the point. Everybody's human.
Everybody's human.
Yeah. What was the chief? The great chief. I listened to his thing. I can't think of his name. We asked them to do too much. We're asking them to do everything. I mean, we're not more than just being a cop and enforcing the law. You want them to be a teacher, a psychiatrist, a social worker. I mean, they've got to be, in the meantime, go get a puppy, that's up a tree, or a cat that's up a tree. I mean, the stuff that we ask these guys to do, it's just unbelievable. And they don't get paid that much. I got a guy in New London. He owns buildings, and he's always complaining that the police get too much money. I said, are you crazy? You go put your badge on and you go out there and stand in front of or wait for a bullet. Whoever's going out there, whatever, they have to protect both sides, whether they like them or whether they don't. That's their job. Okay, and if they're really doing their job, they're supposed to be impartial. But we ask them to do everything.
You know, what honestly, besides fire, what other occupation you can say that you have a chance that you might not come home every day? It's a risk.
Yeah,
it's a
military.
risk. You know, the military. Military is the same thing. I was talking to one of my officer colleagues a couple days ago, and we drove by a house. We're on the way to pick something up at City Hall, and we drove by a house. It's like, oh yeah, I almost got thrown off by that roof during. It was like, I don't know if it was a domestic or something. You never know. You never know. Hey, every time you line up for that roll call and you go out into your shift, there's a chance you might not come home every single day.
Yep. Yeah, and we live in volatile times, and it's really terrible. Yeah, I not only you work for the police department, a lot of people, you know, in Arizona, I retired from the city, Peoria. I was the chief custodian at night, in the police department. My office was with the police department, and it was really interesting. I spent 9 years working in that department alongside the police. In fact, I helped unionize that group out there. And I was able to watch the other side that I used to be
running away from,
right, or in firefights with, in robberies. I mean, I had been in serious stuff. I mean, I wasn't a hubcaps thief when I was growing up. I was, you know, I have a heavy background in armed robbery and stuff like that. I had been in firefights with the police, and it's a dangerous thing for them, and when they're out there, I mean, people just do not understand. But you see them, and I'd watch them get dressed in the locker room and stuff like that, and worry about where they were assigned that night, and which part of the city they were going into, because different parts of the city had different escalations of could be violence and stuff like that, and they all, you know.
You know, and when you have, and then you have lots of great, you know, everybody hears about the bad apples. You know, those are the guys that make the TV, the bad officers. Yeah, exactly. But you have lots of good officers. I remember the chief of police of Bridgeport saying a story of, I think he had been on the beat maybe, I want to say, a month on the job, and he was in the PT Barnum area. If you're familiar with Bridgeport, it's pretty tough part of town. He said it was very cold, and he was writing up tickets. Everybody was parked illegally, and he wrote up tickets, and I guess the commanding sergeant said, all right, now I want you to go and take all the tickets off. And he was like, oh, why'd you want to do that? You know, he's like gung-ho, and he said, we'll take them off. So he took them all off. So he says, you want to know what you just did? So he just made all those friends. Everybody there that you took the tickets off, now they're like, that cop's not a bad guy. Yeah, you know, so there is community. It's all about community policing, dealing with the community, and becoming, you know, one. You know, be a friend. Be a friend.
With the homeless people, I started in 2002, 2003 in New London, okay? I worked with the police. Captain Edwards was on with them before he went, now he's with the district attorney's thing. Captain Edwards, all the police that worked in New London, he had became real friends with the homeless community. They dealt with them. I mean, I have the head of the union police. I have them on speed dial even to this day. Great guys there. I mean, for the majority of the New London Police Department were totally great guys. Always a few. There's always the few that are the ones that, you know, that get the headlines, that make the publicity, that make the paper. Or there's always the jerks. Okay,
Russ, it doesn't matter what profession. You're going to have bad cops.
Right.
You're going to have bad fire. You're going to have a bad, you know, post office
Yeah,
worker.
right,
There's
right.
always bad
Always
apples. It doesn't
bad
matter
apple.
where you're
you
working.
are,
You can
right,
work at
exactly.
Walmart.
I know
You
it.
can work at Walmart, and there's going to be that one person at the register who's a bad apple, and you just don't want
Well,
to deal with.
yeah,
So
that's the one,
There's
yeah.
always a bad apple somewhere.
So one of the things that I know that passed last time around that I wanted to find out how it was affecting things was the cameras.
Yeah, well, you know what? We actually had a representative from Taser Inc. Who they make the tasers, and I guess they have a separate company that does the cameras. I know they came into the Shelton PD, and we talked to the chief about potentially using the cameras. I know there are some funding issues. There's also data storage issues, so that's something that needs to be hammered out. But as you can see, nothing's foolproof. You saw what happened down in Baton Rouge. I guess the cameras fell off before the incident. So, it's one of those things that there's going to be some trial and error. And I know Norwalk, if I'm not mistaken, has been using cameras for the better part of a year. So we definitely we need to reach out to them and see how they've been using them and how they've been working.
Because I know one of the places that I used to run Goodwill Services, and one of the things that we had to always deal with was investigations, because we had developmentally disabled people, and you had to have your own investigator. And if somebody put out a complaint, usually one of the other facilities would have to put it into the state. You would get like a copy of it, and quite literally, I mean, I had probably about 20 or 30 investigations because we had the key fobs as to who was in which room. You had the camera system that we could go back and we could like look at, and we could see who went where, when, and how. And a lot of times, like the investigations were short-circuited because we could just come up and say, okay, well, this person wasn't around. This person at this time,
right.
they
There
were nowhere. So I mean, I do think. It's a useful tool. It's something that helps, I think, protect both sides.
Yeah.
But you're right. It is going to be something that's brand new, and I think different people are going to have different feelings towards it.
Listen, if there's going to be trial and error,
Yep.
you're going to have some incidents. So I know one of the concerns, especially with privacy, what happens to the video if it gets uploaded to a cloud, and God forbid somebody, hacker takes the video,
gets it, yeah.
or you run into a juvenile or
Yeah.
sexual assault. Those are the things you have to have the certain software to blur out the person's face
Right.
or the act. So there's definitely going to be trial and error, and over time, like all technology. I know when they installed dashboard cams, there were some hiccups getting that up and running. So I think it's probably going to be the same thing with the body cams.
Yeah, with every new stuff that you use, there's going to be some problems, and you got to tweak it and stuff like that. And all it is a tool. Okay, it doesn't necessarily tell the whole
not
story.
It's the same thing when somebody takes a video.
You're right, exactly right.
It's from their point of view
From
too.
their point of view.
Yeah, because they may be taking the video of an officer or even a civilian attacking one another, but they didn't record the first
part of it,
5 minutes of it
what led
when
up
somebody
to it,
was the
what's
aggressor.
So yeah, exactly, and that's and those are the difficult issues and stuff like that. But I happen to think it's a good tool. I think it's it's something that it's there for both sides. And
It is.
And it's a good tool. I mean, same thing like you. When you're working in situations and when you're in close contact with people who can tell fibs and not be truthful and stuff like that, you're lucky to have the camera there. Okay, so they can't say things against you that aren't true and stuff like that. I mean, we work in a delicate area where that happens a lot. And so you're lucky that, if you got the cameras, that the cameras are there to back up where you are. So,
I think at the end of the day, training is key for our officers, and even training within our community, how to deal with a certain situation. If you got your license and registration and everything, in order, have it handy, have it ready. Keep your hand on the steering wheel to make sure that
assume
there
the
are
position.
there are no incidents.
I know what it means.
Yeah.
And just do it. And just do it. Education is key. I mean, to everything we do. I mean, we push that all the time. We talk about it in the prison system and everything else. The more educated you are, the more educated you are to the other culture. I mean, I happen to think right now it would be great if they did black studies in for police department. They have training courses. They have a national network where the officers can get trained, much like the religious the religious programming. The police have a national. A lot of people don't know that, but they have a national network that they can hook up with, and they can take classes so that they get a history of a community and maybe understand why, you get a guy like this guy that went berserk, and was finally fed up and stuff like that. Who knows, whatever, and went on a rampage. I mean, there's reasons why these people do that, and. It was interesting. I was listening to Maha, the comedian, was on what the heck is it? TV show, the news. Whatever it was. Well, he was on there, and he said I could he said the guy was crazy, but I might have understood what's behind that. If you're watching years and years of black people being shot by cops and stuff like that, there could be that day that you go wacko, and do something horrendous like that, and it's.
It almost seems like every time there's some sort of shooting, a mass shooting, or an incident with an law enforcement officer, it comes down to mental health. Maybe the officers stress and they're not seeing EAP at work, and to even folks that do the mass shootings, it could be something that's been going on for a long time that hasn't been addressed.
It's not addressed.
And then they snap,
right.
and then we have a tragedy.
Yeah, I meant Hardball was the TV, just for folks who want to know. Chris Mathis showed that he was
Chris
on.
Matheson,
Yeah, he was on the other night talking about the same thing we're talking about here. I mean, how do you understand? Where's the conversation going from here? You got to have people that can. You got to have people at the table who have suffered through the situations, both sides, both the guys in blue and people who've been on the other side of them. I mean, I'm able to sit down now after a lot of years with a lot of police officers.
Well, I think it's the point I think I would like everybody to understand is, look, you can go out and protest, and protesting's your right.
You're right. It's your right.
And it lets people know that there are a lot of numbers.
Right.
But unless you figure out a way to step up to the plate and be involved in it, just shouting out your point of view on either side without having a discussion with the people involved, you're never going to get through to them.
Well, I'm going to tell you what bothers me, which is on my mind, and I'm concerned because it's going to be a couple of days. The Republican convention, you're in a state that's got an open carry law, and these protesters are going to come armed. In other words, there's no way nobody can stop these guys from carrying M16s on their shoulder, open carry. Now, I was in Arizona. 22 years I carried. He said, oh, you can't carry. My partner said, you can't carry. You're an ex-offender. Felon. Guess what? They don't enforce federal law. Everybody open carries. I could go get a license in Arizona right now, even with my way back criminal record. So what? What they say in Arizona, while on parole, while convicted on parole or probation, you can't carry. Outside of that, strap the sucker on, right? So I'm thinking, look at what kind of people that this is going. This is scary. I can't imagine what's a cop in, a guy in blue going to be protecting the crazies that are going to go there. And there are going to be crazies, and they all got the right to carry.
And some of them are crazies with heavier firepower
than
our guys in blue.
That's right.
So they're gonna have these guys are gonna have AR-15s and assault weapons
and everything else. What are you gonna say? How are you gonna do law enforcement to stand up to somebody who's carrying a, on AR-15 strapped to his back, and who knows what else. Say to him, move along. Yeah,
They're
move
gonna have a
along.
peace everywhere, you know.
Yeah, exactly right.
It's going to be like the wild, wild west.
It is. It is. I mean, I used to laugh about that kind of stuff because I used to think, I was a hunter-trapper out there. Well, if you met me out there in the woods, I'd have multiple, not only my rifle on me strapped because of, what I was going after, but then I would have my sidearms. And you got what? A peanut toy? Or a water gun? I mean, that I'm really concerned about this coming convention and what's going to happen out there, and where is the mindset of the poor police officers that got to enforce this situation? I mean, this is, I know where the nutbag is on the Republican Party. He's a nutbag. I'm sorry. I've watched his career since he was young. I know him when he was young. He's nothing but a thug, anti-union, anti-worker. He's been that way since he's been a young man. And, he hasn't changed. He's a racist pig. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think the presumptive Republican nominee has been to the Puerto Rican Day Parade.
No, I don't think so.
This
He
year
ain't
or any other years.
No, he's not going to speak at the NAACP meeting either because he's afraid. He's a coward. He's been a coward all his life. He's been a racist all his life. I mean, people know him from that TV show. We knew him before the TV show. Knew him from Atlantic City. He's a crook. Knew him from Connecticut here.
We knew him
when
from
he was
Bridgeport.
Bridgeport.
Steel Point, he tried to turn into like a casino.
A casino.
I think he bought off a few people in that process.
We've heard about that before.
Mr. Trump is a dirty, racist, rapist, anti-union sucker, and to allow him to even get near the White House is crazy. And I'm ashamed of every Republican in this state that voted for that corrupt sucker. Okay, he's done nothing but hurt workers all his life, from Atlantic City to the casino he tried to play here. If you guys don't know the history, or you do know the history and didn't do nothing about it, shame on all of you. I'm sorry, those are some of
And he made ugly ties too. He made ugly ties.
Oh my God! Right? Well, look what he said about the nation, the natives. Okay, before Congress, they don't look like Indians to me. Who are you?
It almost feels like a bad joke.
Oh, yeah, it does.
It almost feels like a bad joke sometimes. Like they're gonna say,
but you did that in front of Congress.
You
He did it in front of Congress. He said the pocket tuck our nation up here. That's what he said. Live and living. They don't look like Indians to me, and you're going to license.
You remember a couple years ago, there's an actor, Joaquin Phoenix, where for about 6 months he grew a big beard and acted weird and went on to the David Letterman show, and then after 6 months he was like, oh, it's a joke, I was filming the documentary. And he just went back to his normal ways, and I almost feel like after, hopefully he's not the winner. It feels like after Election Day he's gonna say, "Oh, it was all a big joke." And,
you know what? He's gonna make a ton of money. He's in it for himself. He's gonna write books. It
was a marketing ploy.
He's a marketing ploy.
Yeah, it was all about the Trump. Honestly, I believe it's all about the Trump brand.
I do too.
All the money that he's gotten in campaign contributions have been funneled into everything that, from Trump Water to his airline, to all these things.
He lent himself.
Yeah,
money.
he lent himself money.
He lent it.
Yeah.
He doesn't change that. He said he changed. No, he didn't.
No,
they haven't found that. No, because he's going to get it all back.
Yep.
Yeah. It's exactly what it is, a big marketing scheme. He's a joke, and they all fell for it. He always said the Republicans were the stupid people that would follow him anyway. He said that himself. That's him. I didn't say that to all my Republican friends. Your nominee said that about you. Oh, what a shame. Yeah, that's what he thinks about him, And you can see what he's doing.
And you could tell by especially with the state party, it feels like there's like a cold embrace of Donald Trump. It's like they're stuck with them. You know, they're going to have to run.
Yeah, well, they're loyal. See, the
Yeah.
problem, on the other hand, I like Republicans because they're down dirty. Like they'll, you could rob you rob a bank. It's like he said, he could have shot somebody in the middle, right, and they'd still support him because they're loyal to them. I love that about them, but they go a little over the edge.
See now, some of our senators actually run down the bank robbers.
Oh yeah, yeah. Some of them do.
If they can catch them, you gotta catch them.
I could probably get him for half a block. I don't know. I think.
I don't think I'd be going that far.
I think Doyle chased him for a couple miles or something.
Something like that.
Seriously, yeah, right. But you can't blame me. I'm an Elizabeth Warren Democrat, so just understand that, folks. And Hillary knows she won't get my vote if she don't make Elizabeth the VP. Well, I got to be careful there. I'm not going to let Trump get in. That's for sure.
So back to
There's also there's always the Green Party.
No,
the Green Party.
No, I'm down and dirty Democrat. I love Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders was with us in the prison movement in the 70s. I've known him since the 70s. There's a guy that's loyal. He's like a Republican, but he was always independent and stuff like that. Go ahead. What were you going to get back?
I was going to get back to some of the things that actually came out in this session that are pretty good, like ban the box.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Big time.
Ban the box. Just a brief background. I've been working on ban the box in Bridgeport back since 2008,
Yeah, I was just gonna say, a
when
long
Bill
time,
Finch
right.
first became mayor of Bridgeport in late 2007, 2008, early 2008. We banned the box from the municipal application, and it's something that was a dream that was fulfilled this past session. And I know Senator Gomes and a bunch of folks in the Bridgeport delegation, Robin Porter, Tony Walker, and Gary Winfield, they were leaders in the movement. So it was
For years.
Bruce, the chair of the BPRC.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful thing that we needed to do. Not that anybody would use it against me in the State House, right? They tried to get my. You were there. I won't say her name.
They didn't even know what your crimes were.
That's the other thing.
He actually had this from one of the organizations that we work with that tried to stop
do
him.
me in
Yeah.
over my background.
Who would do such a thing?
Imagine that, and that's over 30 years old. But they went after him. Department of Labor said, "You better stay away from him." He said, "You crazy? He's going to sue. He'll sue the state. That's who he is. He'll sue the state, and guess what? We're going to have to support him. You can't do that to him."
I run into people all the time that they made a mistake, like 25, 30 years ago, and they're still paying for that crime.
30 years I had a ticket. It took me $1,000 going to Massachusetts and everything else to get that ticket off my taken care of so I could get my license here in Connecticut. The ticket was a phony ticket. I was in prison when the state police issued the ticket so that they had a ticket to pick me up anytime they wanted. Okay, but the person was no longer around. He passed away that did that and stuff like that. So, I mean, there's all kinds of devices that the police can use against you, and if you don't know about it or don't have the means to get those things erased and taken care of, it stays with you. This thing stayed with me. It was issued in 1969.
Wow.
Okay, so it stayed with me all those years. Now, I had licenses in other states, but Massachusetts had it. Okay, so when I had returned here and I had to get a Connecticut license, they have a reciprocal agreement. I gave the lady, the lady gives me back my license. She says, "Father, I'm sorry. I can't issue you." I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "Massachusetts has a block on you. You've got this." And she gets this ticket. And I said, "I can't have that ticket." I said, "I was in prison. There's no way I could get that." And then I remembered. I hadn't thought about it. And I said, "Oh, I know what that's about." And Colonel Reagan had it stashed. Okay, that's who I was thinking on the state police, because at a certain point in my career, he took it and he stashed it and he had him reissue me a license. Well, I go back to Massachusetts and I said, well, I've had a license since then. They said, no, you haven't. I said, yes, I did. I said, and I turned that license in Arizona. I said, no, you never had a license. Well, of course I did. They gave it to me, the state police and the director, the head of DMV. But it ain't on my it ain't on my sheet. I'm telling you. I mean, it's really interesting what can be done to you, even without you knowing it, and stuff like that, and how those things can happen. But seeing I have a daughter that's on Homeland Security and walked me through the whole thing, I got it all straightened out. She had to hand walk me to Massachusetts, through Massachusetts, and then down here, hold my hand so I'd straighten it out because I was so mad. I drove 15 years illegally with no license here in Connecticut.
And being that you have a record,
if I was stopped and my record came up and everything, I was fortunate that I won't say who the police that knew about my situation that never tagged me and was so nice that they knew that I was driving illegally, but they didn't bother me, okay, because they knew of the situation. I got stopped in New Hampshire. New Hampshire knew about it and they let me go. They said, you got to try and fix this, Father. I said, yeah, I know. At least you're not robbing banks. You're not doing anything bad.
But going back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the show.
Right.
Had it been, had you been, African American or Hispanic?
Oh, I mean, done. Assume the position. You're done.
Three hops and a cot for you.
Exactly. See, exactly right. The police all the way through, knowing what the situation was, were wonderful to me. Connecticut police, some Massachusetts police, because of and New Hampshire police. Those areas, they were treated me way over what they could have locked me up. They could have done a lot of things to me, and they didn't. And what's the problem is, it was not a problem, but I had white protection.
Yeah,
you had white protection. You also have one other thing. You have a lot of legal knowledge.
Yes.
And have pulled a lot of lawsuits and other things with different people.
Right.
That if some other people had some of that level of knowledge, it would be helpful.
See, that's a history. That's why I believe in education. Okay, this is what we try to teach prisoners, and I've been trying to teach prisoners. You need to. I learned when I went into prison by Jimmy Highland was the name of the guy. He was a jailhouse lawyer. He was very brilliant. His name was Highland. He did lawsuits. He did a lot of stuff. He helped a lot of prisoners. Jimmy Highland grabbed me. I think I was in about, it might have been in 6 months, and I almost got in a big fight and everything else. And he took me in the library, and he said, "Kid." And you didn't say kid to me in those days because I was, when you're ahead of a gang, you really think you're something, you know what I mean? And I said, he said, I don't mean to be disrespectful, blah, blah, blah. He said, you got to learn. He said, you're either going to spend the rest of your life in here, you're going to be on death row, or you got to learn the law. If you're going to be a criminal, learn what's going to happen to you. And I went to him like, what? He said, I'm telling you. If you're going to be and do the things that you're doing, he said, what you need to be is like a lawyer. He said, and you need to learn basic law. He said, you're not stupid. I know you're not stupid or anything else. He said, you can do whatever you want, but you're going to spend the rest of your life in the state prison. I could see it. He said, I can see it. I know who you are. So I thought about that for a week or two, and the next thing I did was picked up law books and started to further my education. And, I was a philosophic reader and I was a history reader, but I got into law and I became a jailhouse lawyer and stuff like that. And you're right, the law and the politics, I grew up in a political family. I mean, I know the Ted that was with you guys, and we knew the old one too. And my brother was friends with Joe and all that stuff. So, I grew up and I was fortunate that I did not come out of poverty, and I come out of, where I did. And that has protected me. Education protects you, and of course the white skin. Yeah.
The complexion for the protection.
So we're moving right along, huh? Here, what do we got coming up? I'm right on.
Yeah, I know, you're right on me. We have Marilyn Moore next week,
Marilyn Moore.
and I'm hopefully working to get Ed Gomes on here. So we got a lot of Bridgeport.
A lot of
coming.
Bridgeport.
A lot of
We
Bridgeport
got
coming together.
a lot of Bridgeport over the summer coming up and stuff like that until we'll get back to New London in the fall.
Yeah.
In election time, and I can go off to Orange Brain and rant and rave about him because I hate the guy. I hate the guy.
I do have one shout out for a friend of mine whose son right at the moment is in a coma, and I know we deal with brain injury, and this is what a lot of our families have had to face throughout their lives, and so
Father
I'm
will
hoping
flip
that
over to
that some
the
people
other
are
side. We put him in the prayer box.
put him in the prayer box.
Put him on the
and,
priestly side, not the. And we are serious. Father is very serious about his belief in the Creator, who heals all things and can help us. And we've been very fortunate ourselves with our prayer box over the last couple of years. And so our prayers will obviously go out to them, and our prayers will go out to you because you're
Thank you.
you're running again.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, right.
I'm on the ballot in
you're
November.
on the ballot in November.
I don't
We're
have
going
a
to have you
primary.
back before then.
I'll be back.
No primary?
No primary. No
Oh,
primary.
so
And
that's cool.
I'm on the ballot in November, and
Okay.
I'm looking forward to knocking on doors and re-engaging. I always love to re-engage with my community and my constituents, and I want to give a big shout out to my constituents. Thank you for your support over the years, and I look forward to seeing you this summer and throughout the new session. Should I get elected? Hopefully, knock on wood.
You
get
know,
elected.
hopefully you're going to be in the lead. You're trying to go for leadership position in the
Yeah,
Black
you know,
and Puerto Rican.
if the opportunity is there and I have the support, I would love to lead the Black and Puerto Rican caucus. I think I would bring a fresh, new perspective to things. And there are a lot of issues happening in the state that, especially as young folks, we need to really address. And we have a voice too, and I don't think that voice is being heard.
Good, yeah. We, of course, agree, and we'd be voting for Chris if I was down there, okay? And I'm not, but we agree on all the issues. Obviously, there's no difference in where we come out of things, and where you are. We're absolutely happy that you represent a lot of our constituency, my people, the people that need it, that need a voice to kind of speak for themselves, that have made the mistakes and that are coming out. And you're also in the community that's taken back a lot of people and they got no money, okay? And so you got to fight for the money for the programs and all that stuff. I mean, you know all about that. So
Without the money, a lot of these services just won't be provided, and it'll be a cycle.
very good. Okay, and you're going to come back with us.
Absolutely.
I got to wrap up. Brother, okay, you go out there and fight the good fight with my
Sounds good to me.
Republican friends. We'll see you next week. God bless everybody, and thank you for the guys behind the technical stuff for us. You can wrap us up. We love you all, and we'll see you next week.